Mysteries of the Astral Gate. Introduction. There are places inside you that you have visited but cannot name, places you entered in sleep or silence or deep emotional surrender, where the rules of time unraveled, where your body felt distant, where colors moved like thoughts and thoughts took shape like worlds. And though you could not explain what happened, some part of you returned changed, brushed by something vast, real, alive. This is the Astral Gate. Not an abstract concept, not an escape for the imagination, but a real threshold, subtle, yes, but structured, invisible to the eyes, but undeniable to the soul. It is the place between matter and meaning, between form and frequency. It is where the subconscious becomes landscape and where consciousness slips into space like breath into wind. You've been there. In a dream so vivid, it followed you for days. In the split second before waking, when you could still fly. In the moment of deep meditation, your body dissolves into nothing but you remain, in a brush with death that left you more alive than ever. These were not illusions, these were visits. You crossed the threshold, you passed through the gate, and you're not alone. Every culture has spoken of this place. The Egyptians mapped it with star charts etched into tomb walls. The Tibetans wrote entire guides for navigating it after death. The shamans call it the middle world. The mystics call it the etheric veil. Theosophists call it the astral plane. And in every story, one truth repeats: you are more than your body. And the world you see is only a fraction of what is. Modern science has begun to circle what ancient mystics already knew. The body is energy. The mind is non-local. Perception affects matter. And consciousness is not confined to the skull. Even respected physicists like David Bohm and philosophers like Bernardo Kastrup point to what sages and seers have always whispered: reality is layered, and we are already walking through more than one world. The astral realm is one of them. Charles Leadbeater called it a place of desire and thought made form. Robert Monroe called it the second body, a vehicle through which we explore frequencies and dimensions we've forgotten how to name. Carl Jung didn't call it astral, but his Red Book was a living journal of inner travels into the collective unconscious, where symbols became sentient and psyche became landscape. In the West, we were taught to separate soul from body, dream from reality, self from spirit. But that split is dissolving. People are waking up in their dreams, seeing through the grid, feeling pulled to something they can't explain, but deeply remember. A presence, a path, a gate. This book is not about fantasy. It's not about escapism. It is about intelligent access to a realm that is shaping your life, whether you believe in it or not. Your dreams, your emotions, your fears, your synchronicities, they are all tethered to what moves behind the veil. You are a traveler already. The question is not whether you're crossing the threshold. It's whether you're doing it with awareness. So, let this book be your companion. A mirror, a compass, a reminder of what your soul already knows, that the invisible is not empty and that the gate is not guarded by anything but your own forgetting. Each chapter will take you deeper, not away from the world, but into it, into the layers that pulse behind the ordinary, into the echo chambers of memory, symbolism, and light, into the body of your own subtle self. You do not need to believe. You only need to listen. The Astral Gate is already within you. It has always been within you. Now it's time to walk through. It's time to walk. Chapter 1. The Door Between Worlds. There is a moment, so quiet, so brief, you might miss it. It happens just before sleep, when the body softens and the weight of the day begins to lift. The muscles unwind, and your breath becomes long, slow, wide. You hover at the edge of waking and something shifts, not outwardly but inwardly. A subtle click, a shift in frequency, and suddenly you're somewhere else. Not fully asleep, not fully awake, not quite here, but not gone. This is the threshold, the door between worlds, the moment the astral gate begins to open. It doesn't creak or groan, it doesn't glow with neon mysticism, it moves like water, like breath, like a veil being lifted by something gentle and ancient. The truth is, you pass through this door every night. not just in dreams, but in movement, a kind of slipping out of form. Your physical body rests, but your consciousness doesn't. It shifts tracks. You float, not up, but inward, through layers of self, through zones of memory and symbol and space, and you're not alone. Millions pass through this door while the world sleeps. Some hover just beyond the body in etheric echoes. Others journey deep, pulled into spaces where thoughts shape landscapes and time curls in spirals. And some, whether by accident or intent, become aware inside the dream. They wake up in the other world, and at that moment, they realize, this is not imagination. This is not fiction. This is a realm. The ancients knew it well. In Egypt, initiates of the mystery schools trained for years to consciously traverse the underworld, not as myth, but as skill. The Tibetans mapped the intermediate state between death and rebirth, the bardo, as a multi-layered journey through vision, memory, and light. Sufi mystics spoke of traveling in spirit. Hindu yogis spoke of siddhis, supernatural abilities of awareness beyond the flesh. And across indigenous traditions, shamans entered trance to walk between worlds and retrieve messages, healing, and guidance. In the West, these teachings were preserved in whispers, hermetic texts, Gnostic fragments, the journals of dreamers and mystics. Theosophists like C.W. Leadbeater, Annie Besant, and Rudolf Steiner gave detailed maps of the astral plane, its regions, its frequencies, its inhabitants. They wrote not from fantasy but from observation, direct experience. They were not tourists of the invisible, they were cartographers of consciousness. And then came the modern explorers, Robert Monroe, who recorded his out-of-body travels with scientific precision. His focus levels became landmarks for an entirely new generation of astral travelers. Scientists like Dean Radin, Lynn McTaggart, and Rupert Sheldrake began exploring what mystics had long described, that consciousness is not confined to the skull, that the universe is intelligent, entangled, responsive. And what does all of this mean? It means the door is real. It means you've been crossing it all your life. It means your soul is already bilingual, fluent in the language of both matter and light. The astral gate is not something to be unlocked. It's something to be noticed. But to notice it, you must soften, not weaken, soften. You must release the tight grip of the thinking mind and begin to feel with the subtle senses, the sense behind your sight, the ear behind your hearing, the knowing behind your logic, because this realm doesn't shout, it reflects, it responds, it shapes itself to the frequency you bring. If you're afraid, it will reflect fear. If you're clear, it will become a mirror. If you're open, it will begin to sing. And what waits there? Not angels and demons in cartoon disguise, but structures of consciousness, memories stored as places, archetypes walking with faces, the parts of you you've lost or forgotten or buried, waiting to be reintegrated, waiting to be reclaimed. When you begin to pay attention, you'll notice signs that you're approaching the gate, sudden dizziness before sleep, vibrations in the spine, hearing your name when no one speaks, lights flashing in the dark, floating sensations, or a sense of being watched, not with menace, but with recognition. These are not hallucinations. They are the symptoms of transition, the transition between dense and subtle, between the waking world and the inner world that shapes it. And once you learn to cross consciously, to leave the body not as escape, but as expansion, you gain access to something few ever truly understand, a space that is not bound by time, distance, or flesh, a space where you are not just yourself but also your memories, your emotions, and your intentions, a space that responds not to your hands but to your heart. You do not need to be perfect to enter. You do not need to be holy. You only need to be present, clear in your intention, open in your energy, grounded in your breath. This door is not locked. It never was. It simply opens to those who stop searching and begin to feel. The astral gate is not fantasy. It is not superstition. It is not behind you or ahead of you. It is within you, waiting. Chapter 2. Anatomy of the Astral Body. You've been taught to identify yourself by what you can see, your reflection, your skin, the beat of your heart, the rise and fall of your breath. but beneath the visible is a deeper structure, a geometry of light, a body of motion, a form not made of flesh but of vibration. You are not just physical, you are layered. And one of those layers, intimate, immediate, always just beneath the surface, is your astral body. It is your emotional vessel, your dream walker, your shadow traveler, your inner twin. It is not a ghost. It is not a metaphor. It is the subtle body that steps forward when the physical body sleeps, when the mind turns inward, and when the soul seeks to roam. And though you may not see it with your eyes, you feel it when you dream. You become it when you cross into the other world. The Theosophists described it as the luminous double, the energetic twin of the human being. It is not just a container for consciousness, it is a vehicle of perception. It mirrors your thoughts and emotions, which shape its texture, color, and density. In moments of clarity, it is radiant. In states of fear, it can become dim, heavy, and unstable. It does not lie. It shows you exactly where you are. According to C.W. Leadbeater, the astral body is composed of finer matter than the etheric body. It exists in its own plane, the astral plane, just one octave higher than the physical. It interpenetrates your physical form and becomes dominant the moment you leave your body in sleep, trance, or conscious projection. And when you die, it becomes the sheath through which you cross the first stages of the afterlife. In Hindu metaphysics, this layer is called the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. In Hermeticism, it is the body of light. In Kabbalistic teachings, it echoes through the Nefesh and Ruach. The language differs. The essence remains. You are more than skin. You are woven from light. The astral body is shaped by emotion and imagination. It moves not by muscle, but by thought. You can fly, dissolve, walk through walls. Not because rules are broken, but because the rules are different. Gravity bends to feeling. Space yields to will. In the astral, you are both observer and architect. The stronger your emotional field, the faster your movement. The clearer your intention, the more direct your path. But it's not only a place for wonder, it is also the mirror of your inner structure. The unhealed parts of you, the memories you suppress, the fears you avoid, the wounds you carry, they echo in your astral body. You might see them as shapes, feel them as weight, be pulled into environments that reflect them. The astral doesn't lie, it reveals, it exposes what the mind hides. That's why so many dreams feel symbolic. They are. Carl Jung didn't speak of astral projection, but his journeys into the imaginal realm, the collective unconscious, the archetypal self, mirror the same terrain. When he closed his eyes and let the figures speak, when he drew the mandalas and followed the symbols, he was doing what the mystics have done for centuries. He was walking the inner world, and the inner world has a body, you. The astral body connects to your physical form through energetic channels, called nadis in yoga and meridians in Chinese medicine. These channels converge in centers called chakras, which act as translators between frequencies. When these centers are open, the astral body is fluid, responsive, bright. When blocked, it becomes dense, confused, fragmented, and yet always retrievable, always capable of healing. You've felt your astral body before, in the vibration that rises just before you fall asleep, in the floating sensation during meditation, in the paralysis before a lucid dream, in the strange awareness that you are looking down at your own sleeping form. These aren't hallucinations, they are activations. You are slipping out, and when you do, your senses shift. Sound becomes color, thought becomes motion, feeling becomes space, and you begin to move, sometimes consciously, sometimes not, into the realms beyond. But you are not untethered. A silver cord, as ancient texts describe it, connects you back to your body. Not physically, but energetically. It is the lifeline between planes, severed only at death. Until then, it ensures that no matter how far you roam, you can return. Safely, instantly, with breath. The more you awaken to your astral body, the more your dreams begin to change. You stop running from shadows. You start navigating them. You stop floating aimlessly. You start moving with intention. Eventually, a moment comes when you become aware within the body of light itself, not as a dreamer, but as a traveler, a witness, a being of structure and choice. You don't need to wait for that moment. You can practice it, strengthen it, learn its language. Every time you meditate, every time you journal your dreams, every time you breathe with awareness, you are tuning the vehicle, polishing the mirror, remembering the form you wear when you cross the veil. Your astral body is not something to create, it is already yours, you were born with it. Now it's time to remember how to use it. Chapter 3. Layers of the Astral World. Not all light is the same, not all silence holds the same weight, and not all of the invisible moves at the same frequency. The astral world is not a singular realm, it is a spectrum, a vast and varied terrain that shifts with vibration, shaped by intention, colored by emotion, and ordered by resonance. It is a layered world, and each layer holds its own truth, its own geometry, its own laws. You do not go to the astral plane like stepping into another room. You tune into it. You match it. You become the frequency that grants you access. And once you're there, whether through dream, deep meditation, or projection, you begin to feel its range. You begin to see what ancient seers and modern travelers alike have described, that the astral world is not chaotic, but structured. Each level is a mirror, not of your face, but of your state. The lower levels, dense, murky, heavy, are filled with echoes of fear, obsession, and unresolved shadow. Here desire clings. Thought forms drift like mist, sometimes sticky, sometimes seductive. These are the realms closest to the physical, often filled with lingering energies of the recently deceased, unprocessed trauma or mental projections that have taken on a kind of momentum. These are the realms the Tibetans warned of in the Bardo Thodol, transitory zones of illusion and attachment. In these spaces, it's easy to get caught in a loop, to meet familiar patterns dressed in new costumes, the hungry ex-lover, the controlling voice, the wounded child. These aren't demons in the mythological sense. They are astral imprints, emotional architecture you've carried with you across lifetimes. But in the astral, thoughts and wounds don't stay inside. They take form. This is why awareness matters. Not to fight the darkness, but to see through it. To walk the lower realms with eyes wide open, not as a victim, but as a witness. You are not here to fix the shadows. You are here to recognize them as part of the great spiral of becoming. As your vibration rises, calmed by intention, clarity, and openness, you move into the middle realms. These are more fluid, dreamlike, symbolic. Landscapes shift with thought. Communication is telepathic. Time is soft. Many lucid dreams occur here. The astral traveler moves with more ease. Guides may appear, sometimes as teachers, ancestors, or archetypal figures. Here, the veil thins between the personal and the collective. You feel your soul stretching beyond your current identity, brushing the edge of your greater self. And above even these are the luminous astral zones, the higher astral, realms of light, sound, and crystalline intelligence. These are the cities of harmony spoken of by yogis in samadhi, by near-death experiencers, by mystics who returned unable to explain what they saw, not because it was complex, but because it was pure. In these places, emotion doesn't distort, it amplifies truth. There is no deception because deception cannot survive the frequency. Everything is exposed, but not in shame, in love. This is the realm of clarity, of recognition, of the soul remembering its source. According to the law of one, these higher zones resonate with the vibrations of unity, of service to others, of sacred order. Theosophy echoes this in descriptions of the heaven world, where the soul reviews, rests, and prepares. In these levels, you may meet beings not bound by incarnation, guides, light beings, ascended consciousnesses whose presence is not made of personality but of frequency. But access to these realms is not about worthiness, it's about attunement. You cannot force your way upward. You rise by releasing what binds you. Judgment, fear, control, they are heavy. They pull you into the denser zones. But when you let go, when you enter in a state of love, of curiosity, of devotion, you float, you rise naturally. The gate opens because you match it, and you don't have to stay in one place. Astral travelers report moving through levels within the same journey, ascending or descending based on emotional clarity or mental focus. You may begin in chaos, and through breath and presence find yourself in light. Or you may be in light and fall suddenly into confusion, triggered by a doubt, a fear, an old wound. The astral world responds instantly. There is no buffer. You are met with what you bring. And yet, this is not punishment. It is revelation. The astral realm is honest. It does not flatter. It reflects. And in that reflection, you gain the rarest of insights. The ability to see yourself as you truly are, not through the lens of ego, but through the architecture of your soul. These layers are not vertical ladders. They are frequencies, like notes on a scale. And you are the instrument. To travel well, tune well. The more refined your inner landscape, the clearer the outer terrain becomes. What once looked like fog becomes form. What once looked like shadow becomes symbol. What once felt like chaos becomes code. You are not just passing through these layers, you are interacting with them, participating, learning how to navigate not as a visitor, but as a remembering being, one who has walked these paths before, because you have. And now, with new eyes, you return. Chapter 4. Traveling without the body. It begins with a sensation, a hum behind the ears, a slow pull from the center of the chest, a loosening as if gravity itself has grown weary of holding you. The body remains, but you are no longer bound to it. You hover, not above it, but beyond it. And something in you whispers, not in fear, but in awe. I am not this form. I never was. This is the art of conscious departure. It has many names: astral projection, soul travel, out-of-body experience, bilocation. The terms vary across cultures and lineages, but beneath them all is the same mystery: how to remain fully aware while the body sleeps, and the soul remembers how to move without flesh. This is not fantasy, it is not hallucination, it is not escape. It is an ancient memory stirring inside you. Yogis knew it. Hermetic adepts trained for it. Tibetan monks mastered it. The Egyptians built entire initiatory chambers to simulate the death process, so that the soul could leave the body consciously before physical death ever came. They weren't preparing for death. They were preparing for life, expanded, sovereign, unconfined. In more recent times, explorers like Robert Monroe brought structure to this forgotten art. His journeys, painstakingly recorded, showed repeatable stages: vibration, separation, perception, exploration, return. He documented not only where he went, but how. The Monroe Institute developed audio technologies to entrain the brain into the liminal state where the veil begins to thin. The pattern is always the same: stillness, surrender, soft intention. And then, the shift. The shift begins in sleep. Each night, as your body slips into rest, your consciousness loosens. You drift. You dream. You hover in spaces between worlds. Sometimes you remember, most times you forget. But the travel happens all the same. To bring consciousness into this movement is not to control it. It is to partner with it, to witness it, to remain awake inside the departure. And how do you begin? It begins with the body stilled and the mind softened. A state known as the hypnagogic threshold, where the body sleeps but the mind drifts in quiet wakefulness. Breath deepens, thought slows, and in this gentle pause, vibration begins. The vibration is not external, it is not dangerous. It is the friction of your subtle self separating from the density of matter. Some hear a buzz, others feel waves of energy, spinning, pulsing, rushing. Do not resist, do not fear, allow. Once the vibrations build, you may feel light, or heavy, or disoriented. You may sense your limbs shift when your body has not moved. You may feel a second self, rolling, floating, tilting forward. This is the astral body becoming aware of itself. You may rise above your sleeping form. You may move through your ceiling. You may find yourself standing in your room. but everything feels thinner. You see with no eyes, hear with no ears. You think, and you are there. There is no walking in the astral realm. There is a shifting. Movement is determined by thought, emotion, and will. The more focused your intention, the smoother your travel. The more erratic your energy, the more erratic your movement. And so we return to the core principle of all subtle navigation. State determines destination. Fear pulls you into lower realms. Clarity lifts you into a cleaner space. Curiosity opens doors. Love opens light. You must also remember that protection is not superstition, it is resonance. Before every departure, set an intention. Surround yourself with light. Breathe into your heart. Call in only what serves your highest good. Do not open the gate with greed or chaos. Open it with reverence, because the astral realm is alive, and it responds to what you carry into it. As you learn to navigate, you will begin to recognize landmarks, familiar rooms, inner temples, winding corridors made of memory and symbol. You may visit places you've never been but instantly know. You may meet guides or fragments of your own self wearing archetypal masks, but know this: you are always in control, not of what you see but of how you respond. If you feel overwhelmed, simply return to the breath. Call yourself back. Focus on the physical. Wiggle your fingers. Blink. You will return instantly. The silver thread remains. With practice, the fear dissolves, the resistance softens, and what once felt otherworldly becomes natural. Because it is. You've done this before, in dreams, in lifetimes, between lives. You are not learning something new. You are remembering something ancient, something encoded in your soul. And now, body still, breath slow, mind quiet, you stand again at the edge of the gate. This time, not to sleep, but to see. Chapter 5. Guardians, Entities, and the Ethics of Contact. The astral realm is not empty. It is not a blank sky or a void without meaning. It is filled with thought, with memory, with energy, with intelligence. It holds echoes of your past, symbols of your soul, pieces of others you've touched, and presences that have never walked the earth in physical form. Some are luminous, others are curious, a few are confused, and yes, some are deceptive. But none are random. Everything you encounter in the astral world is a reflection, a resonance, or a response. And so the most important question you can ask before any journey is not, "What will I find?" but "What am I carrying?" Because in the astral, you attract what you are. If your heart is calm, you will draw peace. If your intention is clear, you will draw clarity. But if your mind is frantic, scattered, or hungry for power, you may enter spaces filled with distortion, hallways of illusion where shadows dress themselves as light. This is not to scare you. It is to remind you. The astral is real. And like any real terrain, it must be walked with awareness, with respect, with care. Let's begin with the presence of light. You may meet guides, energies that feel older than time, familiar without a face, gentle but unmistakably powerful. They may speak in images, in emotions, in symbolic transmissions that unfold slowly, like a dream you understand only days later. These are not spirits in the ghost story sense. They are intelligences, consciousness that exists to assist, not command. And they will never override your will. They will never instill fear. They will never ask for devotion or obedience. True guides don't ask to be followed. They ask you to remember your own inner knowing. Across traditions, these presences are known by many names: ancestors, devas, angels, bodhisattvas, ascended masters. The Law of One refers to them as social memory complexes, collectives of beings vibrating in unity, offering insight and light to those attuned to receive. Theosophists speak of the Great White Brotherhood. Sufis speak of the Friends of God. But regardless of name, the contact is always gentle, expansive, never invasive. And then there are the Watchers. Some say they are guardians of certain gates, protectors of inner thresholds not to be crossed without readiness. They do not block you. They reflect you. They test your clarity. They may appear frightening at first because they mirror your fear. They hold a kind of sacred neutrality. They are neither helpful nor harmful. They are thresholds given form. Honor them. Do not push. Ask, breathe, let them respond. Now, let us speak of shadow. Not every presence you encounter in the astral is enlightened. There are thought forms, constructs born from human emotion, lingering long after their creators forget them. Obsessions take form. Addictions become echoes. Ancestral wounds hover in spaces between. These are not demons in the dramatic sense. They are fragments, unfinished stories, unresolved energies, drifting in the currents of the astral tide. You may feel them before you see them. A coldness, a tension, a distortion in the space. They often appear as manipulative, curious, or clinging, but they only have power when you offer it. The moment you center, drop into the breath, reconnect with your sovereignty, they recede, because their fuel is fear, their medium is doubt. And then, rarely, you may encounter deceptive forms, energies that mimic light but lack truth. These are tricksters, not always malicious but often mischievous. They offer knowledge but ask for control. They speak in absolutes. They may inflate your ego. You are chosen. You are the only one. You must obey. These are not messages of light. Light never separates. Light never coerces. Light never demands. Your greatest shield in such encounters is not aggression, it is discernment. Ask every presence, no matter how luminous, 3 simple questions. Internally, energetically. Are you of the highest good? Do you respect my free will? Do you serve love, not fear? Then, feel the answer. Not in words, in resonance. Your body knows. Your breath knows. If something tightens, if something hides, if something rushes you, step back, reconnect, return. You are always in control. The silver thread is yours. The sovereignty is yours. The gate responds to your vibration. That is why spiritual hygiene matters. Before entering the astral, clear your field. Sit in stillness. Visualize light. Set intention. Call in only what aligns with your soul's highest purpose. This is not superstition. It is resonant architecture. You are building the temple through which you will travel. Because what meets you on the other side is already listening, not to your words, to your state. To explore the astral is not just to travel through space. It is to be seen. And what you encounter is often not something new, but a deeper mirror of what lives inside you. The unhealed wound, the ancient guide, the shadowed hope, the forgotten vow, the sacred contract. All of it waits behind the gate, not to challenge you, not to bless you, but to meet you. So when you travel, do so with clarity. And if you forget, if you find yourself lost, frightened, or uncertain, return to your center, return to your breath, return to the truth that you are never without power, because the greatest guardian you will ever meet is you. Chapter 6. Mirrors of the Psyche. The further you move into the astral world, the more you begin to realize you're not just traveling through space, you're traveling through yourself. Every environment you enter, every figure you meet, every echo that calls your name is part of the great mirror. In the physical world you carry emotion and memory quietly, like invisible stones in your pockets. But in the astral world, nothing stays hidden. Thought becomes substance, belief becomes architecture. Your inner world spills out into a living tapestry, rooms built from memory, landscapes stitched from longing, cities formed from ancient dreams. The astral is not just a realm beyond, it is the theater of the unconscious. You are both the actor and the scriptwriter. Carl Jung may not have called it the astral, but he walked its halls. In the Red Book, he wrote of encounters with inner figures, guides, shadows, symbols. He didn't dismiss them as projections. He treated them as real, autonomous aspects of the self. He understood what mystics always knew, that the psyche is not a flat surface. It is a labyrinth, a temple, a kingdom. And when you enter the astral, you walk its inner corridors. This is why your astral journeys are so deeply personal. You might meet a glowing being who speaks in silence, or a crumbling house from childhood that holds a forgotten emotion. You might find yourself in a classroom filled with soul lessons, or trapped in a looping dream you can't escape. None of this is random. It's all reflection. You are being shown not what's wrong with you, but what's unseen within you. These experiences often begin symbolically: a staircase, a locked door, a child in the corner, a shadow at the edge of your vision. You might not understand the meaning immediately. You don't need to. The astral doesn't speak in plain language. It speaks in pattern, in gesture, in archetype. This is the sacred function of the astral mirror: to make the invisible visible, to show you the shape of your fears, the color of your desires, the voice of your intuition. It's not just a realm to explore. It's a realm that reflects how you think, feel, believe, and love. It shows you the structure beneath the story. The more lucid you become in the astral, the more consciously you can engage with these reflections. You can ask questions. You can offer forgiveness. You can witness a part of yourself and bring it home. The dream becomes dialogue. The symbol becomes medicine. The mirror becomes a map. This is healing on a soul level. Because some wounds don't live in the mind, they live in the body of emotion, in memory, in the astral blueprint. And when you see those wounds reflected in an astral form, a person, a place, a situation, you are given a rare opportunity, not just to observe, but to recreate, to offer presence where before there was pain, to shift the pattern from within. You might meet parts of yourself you've abandoned, your younger self, your voice, your power. You may see them not as ideas, but as living beings asking to be seen, reclaimed, and integrated. These aren't illusions. They are facets of your own soul, shattered across time and now returning, drawn by your awareness. And what about shadow? The astral mirror shows that too. The parts you repress, the traits you judge in others, the masks you've worn for so long they feel like your skin. These shadows take form, not to haunt you, but to be held. When you confront them in the astral realm, with clarity, with love, they begin to dissolve, not because you've banished them, but because you've understood them. This is the secret power of astral travel. It's not always about going farther. Sometimes it's about going deeper, beneath the persona, beneath the script, beneath the surface self you show the world. The astral reveals the self in its rawest geometry. No masks, no mirrors, only truth in living motion. And the more you witness that truth, the more you walk the inner world with reverence, curiosity, and courage, the more your outer life begins to change. Not because you've forced anything, but because the inner pattern has shifted, the reflection has realigned, and life, as always, mirrors your inner state. You begin to notice synchronicities, symbols repeat, patterns break, healing unfolds. Not from effort, from integration. The mirror has done its work, and you, the traveler, return with something more precious than vision. You return with remembrance of who you are, of what you've hidden, of what is now ready to be reclaimed. Because the gate doesn't just lead outward, it leads in, and what you find there is everything you've been searching for. Chapter 7. Portals in time and memory. Time does not tick in the astral. It curls, it stretches, it folds back on itself like pages in a book you remember reading, but not in order. Here the past is not gone, the future is not fixed, memory is not personal, and identity is not limited to the face you wear in this life. In the astral, time is not a line, it is a field, and you are not a traveler bound by chronology. You are a presence, moving through echoes, through lifetimes, through fragments of your own eternal rhythm. You've felt this already. The déjà vu hit like lightning. The dream where you lived a life you've never known, yet mourned deeply upon waking. The place you visited once and felt yourself return to, as though you'd left something behind. These are not tricks of the mind. They are ruptures in the veil. They are portals. The astral gate does not only lead beyond space, it leads beneath time. The Theosophists spoke of the Akashic records, a vast archive not housed in books, but in vibration. A memory field, encoded into the astral itself, containing every thought, emotion, and event across existence. Edgar Cayce called it the Book of Life. In the astral, you don't read these records. You feel them. You enter them. They show up as scenes, landscapes, and characters that reflect some deeper thread calling to be seen, healed, or understood. Not every image is literal. Not every story is yours. But when the resonance strikes true, it's unmistakable. You know, not with logic, but with soul recognition. This isn't nostalgia. This is remembering. Many who walk the astral speak of visiting past lives, seeing themselves as priestesses, warriors, poets, or wanderers, not to romanticize, but to understand what echoes through them now, why certain patterns repeat, why certain relationships burn with intensity, why some wounds feel older than this body could possibly carry. Time in the astral reveals itself as a pattern. You see cycles, recurring themes, the same soul in different faces, the same choices offered again and again across different centuries of experience. Not to trap you, to free you, by showing you that what you thought was destiny is actually design, and that design can be reshaped. You may also glimpse possible futures, not as prophecy but as probability. The astral contains the blueprint of many timelines. When your mind quiets and your vibration aligns, you may catch sight of a path not yet walked, a potential reality whispering, "This is what could be one if you choose differently." These aren't guarantees. They are invitations, visions seeded by alignment. Carlos Castaneda described the astral as the place where the assemblage point of perception shifts, where you can see other versions of yourself, in parallel lives, in alternate decisions, in roles you didn't take, but still live within you energetically. And when you see them, something changes. You realize you are not oneself. You are a constellation. And sometimes, what the astral shows you is ancestral. You enter a memory not from your own life, but from your bloodline. A grief that isn't yours but runs through your veins. A war. A vow. A silence passed down like a sacred object. The astral is not bound by your personal identity. It opens to the field of the collective, the inherited, the encoded. And in these moments, healing one part of your story heals something across generations. All of this happens without clocks, without calendars, without age. Time in the astral is not about sequence, it's about resonance. You are drawn to what you are ready to see. You are shown what your frequency matches. You arrive where your soul is already waiting, and yet, for all its expansiveness, the astral is still intimate. You may find yourself back in your childhood home, but different, glowing, echoing. You may walk into a moment you forgot, only to retrieve a part of yourself left behind. You may find objects from long ago, a book, a necklace, a voice, and in touching them a flood of memory opens like a flower. These are not dreams, they are retrievals, because the soul stores memory not in words, but in sensation, in shape, in symbol, in subtle geometry. And the astral is where those geometries come alive. To walk these portals is not to escape the present, it is to deepen it, to retrieve what you have lost in time, to witness what still calls for your attention, and to return with eyes that see wider than chronology. You are not meant to be trapped by your past. You are meant to redeem it. You are not here to fear the future. You are here to reshape it. You are not one life. You are a spiral of lives, each one an echo, each one a gate, and in the astral, you are the key. Chapter 8. The Gatekeepers of Death and Rebirth. There is a moment no one escapes. It comes like a breath that pauses, like a silence that deepens, like a curtain that draws back to reveal not an ending, but a passage. This is death. And for those who've walked through the astral gate in life, death is not unfamiliar. It is not a cliff. It is a door they've already touched. Because death, for the soul, is not an extinguishing. It is a release from form. And the first world it enters is the astral. The Tibetans mapped it with astonishing detail. In the Bardo Thodol, the Book of the Dead, they describe the days after death not as darkness, but as a series of luminous visions, symbolic realms, and choices. The soul is met not by judgment, but by its own unprocessed energies. What it sees is a reflection. What it experiences is shaped by the vibration it carries. The Theosophists echoed this truth. C.W. Leadbeater, Annie Besant, and others described the astral plane as the first stop for the recently departed. Here, the soul reviews its life. It feels the ripples of its choices. It sees how it touched others, not through doctrine or dogma, but through vibration. You are shown how your presence affects the field of consciousness, not to punish, to illuminate, because the afterlife is not a sentence, it is an awakening, and the astral, once again, becomes the mirror. In the lower astral, souls may linger when they are confused, addicted to earthly attachments, or unaware they've passed. These are the restless spirits, the wandering echoes, the shadows that hover near the veil. They do not need fear, they need light, recognition, compassion, and often they need help to rise. In the middle astral, the soul often experiences rest, healing, and reunion, with guides, loved ones, and fragments of its greater self. Here the landscape is beautiful, serene, dreamlike. Time dissolves. There may be temples, gardens, places of learning, places of remembrance. Near-death experiencers often describe this region, an atmosphere of light and unconditional love, where communication is telepathic and knowledge flows like music. And in the upper astral, the soul may begin its preparation for the next incarnation, or its integration into higher realms, depending on its evolution. Some choose to return. Some choose to serve. Others remain in luminous collectives of consciousness, becoming part of what mystics have called the Oversoul, the Brotherhood of Light, or simply home. But across every level, there is one constant. The soul is sovereign. It is not judged, it is not commanded, it is guided. And always gently the gate is tended. Gatekeepers may appear, not as guards but as initiators. Sometimes they come in the form of loved ones, sometimes as beings of light, sometimes as archetypes, the ferryman, the angel, the silent figure who says nothing but whose eyes hold eternity. They do not pull you, they invite you, and you, the soul, must choose. Every threshold in the astral teaches this. Choice is sacred, even at the moment of transition. And what of the soul that chooses to return? Before re-entry into the physical world, the soul may enter the temple of design, a realm of luminous geometry where future lives are sensed, not as punishment or reward, but as opportunity. Here soul groups may meet, karmic threads may be reviewed. A blueprint is felt, not written in stone, but alive, adaptable, shaped by the soul's readiness to evolve. You do not choose parents or conditions randomly. You choose with intention, with precision, with the guidance of those who see more than this lifetime. This is the sacred art of rebirth. And the gate swings open once again, not into death, but into form. And the soul enters, not as blank slate, but as encoded light, wrapped in flesh and forgetfulness. The memories fade, but the blueprint remains, and with it, the longing to remember. That longing is your spiritual hunger. That ache is your ancient memory of the Astral Gate. And every time you dream, meditate, lose yourself in beauty, or brush against death, you feel it again. That echo, that shimmer, that knowing. You have walked this path before, and you will walk it again. Because death is not the end of the journey, it is the opening of the next corridor, and the soul, unchanged by flame or flesh, moves ever onward, ever deeper into the spiral of remembering. And when you understand this, you stop fearing death, and you start living with awareness of what lies beyond it. You live not for safety, but for truth, not for control, but for resonance, not for survival, but for soul expression. Because you now know the body will sleep, but the light continues, and beyond every ending the gate awaits. Chapter 9. The Art of Returning. The journey is never just in the going, it is in the return. It is one thing to drift among stars, to walk through past lives, to speak with the luminous and the forgotten. But what matters, what truly transforms you, is what you bring back. Because every time you step into the invisible realms, you are changed, subtly, quietly. Some part of you widens, softens, realigns. You see behind the veil. You touch the truth that lives beneath language. And you return, not as a passenger of your life, but as a participant in its design. But the return is delicate. If you rush, the insight fades. If you doubt, the vision dims. If you fail to ground, you carry the light in your mind but lose its power in your body. The art of returning is the art of integration. You must not only remember, you must live what you remember. This is why ancient initiates were trained not just to enter altered states, but to come back in wholeness. Egyptian temples had chambers not only for ascent, but for return. Shamans always closed their journeys with offerings, grounding rituals, storytelling. In Tibet, the traveler recites mantras as they awaken from the bardo, tethering soul to breath once again. Because they knew what modern seekers sometimes forget. Vision without embodiment is a mirage. So how do you return from the astral? How do you bring what you saw into the density of days? First, with reverence. Don't leap to interpret. Sit with the resonance. Let the experience breathe. Let your body recalibrate. Drink water. Touch the earth. Move slowly. Your nervous system needs space to hold what the soul has seen. Then write, speak, create. Let the memory pass through your hands. Turn it into form, poetry, painting, music, movement. The astral is not meant to stay in your head. It wants to live through you. The act of expression is not decoration, it is transmission. And ask, what did I feel? What did I learn? What did I recognize? The truth is rarely in the symbol itself. It is in what the symbol unlocked in you. Maybe you saw yourself in another life, but what matters now is what that self was asking you to reclaim. Courage, forgiveness, silence, strength. Maybe you flew, but what matters is the permission that flight gave you, to rise above fear, to see from a higher view, to move without permission. Maybe you met someone luminous, but what matters is not their name or face or wings. What matters is the message, the echo, the vibration that still moves through your chest when you remember it. And finally, bring it home. Not with doctrine, not with preaching, but with presence. Let your decisions carry the weight of what you've seen. Let your relationships soften in the light of your remembrance. Let your silence say what words cannot. When you return from the astral realm, the world will look the same. But you will not be the same, and because of that, everything begins to shift. Synchronicities increase, dreams intensify, serendipities bloom in places you never noticed. Why? Because you've returned with clearer resonance, you've updated your frequency, and now the outer world responds. But there is one more challenge, the forgetting, because the body is dense, the world is noisy, and the memory of the subtle dissolves if not nourished. So return again and again. Put it into practice. Make it sacred, not as escape, but as refinement. The gate is not a place you visit once. It is a rhythm, a conversation, a spiral. And every time you return, centered, grounded, awake, you bring more of your soul into your form. You become more aligned, more alive. And this, truly, is the hidden purpose of astral travel. Not to leave life behind, but to return to it more fully, more honestly, more whole. Chapter 10. Becoming the Gate. At first, the gate feels distant, mysterious, sacred, separate. It hums in your dreams. It flickers in visions. It appears behind your eyes when silence deepens. And you, the seeker, reach for it, longing to cross, to enter, to awaken. But then something changes, not in the gate, but in you. You stop chasing signs. You stop asking where the door is, and instead, you sit, you breathe, you listen. And the realization arrives like light filtering through ancient stone. You are the gate, you always were. The threshold is not a place, it is you when you are fully aligned. You when your body is still, but your soul is wide. You when your thoughts soften and your presence becomes luminous. You when the inner and outer become indistinguishable, and spirit enters the world through you. This is not a metaphor. It is resonance. All the travel, all the symbols, all the encounters, they were reflections of your own sacred structure. The astral wasn't just somewhere you went. It was showing you what you are. It was revealing the subtle architecture of your being. The dream wasn't otherworldly. It was a coded message from your deeper self. The temple wasn't in another dimension. It was your own soul, turned inward like a blossom. And now, you know. You do not need to leave your body to access the unseen. When your breath is sacred, when your thoughts are clear, when your heart is open, you are the portal. The mystics have always known this. The Temple of Solomon was a symbol of the human body. The chakras are gates of light strung along the spine itself, the staff, the breath, the prayer, the body, the altar. Every gesture of presence, every choice made in alignment becomes a doorway, a passage, a gate. When you sit in deep silence and you feel your cells listening, you are already there. When you speak truthfully and your voice carries the tone of the soul, you are already transmitting light. When you love without condition, when you forgive with depth, when you walk through life with reverence, you are not just living, you are bridging dimensions. The astral gate is not to be worshipped, it is to be remembered within you. You are the meeting point of worlds. You are the field where vibration becomes voice, where spirit touches skin, where thought births matter. This changes everything. You no longer seek power, you radiate coherence. You no longer cling to vision, you become clarity itself. You no longer fear the unknown, because you are the unknown made visible, the soul made tangible, the sacred given skin. You begin to walk differently, slower, surer, with the deep, unshakable knowing that what moves through you is not just you. The invisible speaks through your decisions. The unseen sings through your presence. And every room you enter becomes a little thinner, a little softer, because you carry the gate within. And you've left it open. You were never meant to be a tourist of the beyond. You were always meant to be its translator. Now you see why the whispers came. Now you see why the veil lifted. Not to entertain you, not to escape the world, but to return you to it more luminous than you left. Because now you understand. The gate was never out there. It was pulsing beneath your ribs. It was the light behind your eyes. It was the stillness between your thoughts. And now, you don't just walk through the astral. You walk as it. You live as it. You become the gate. Closing transmission. The gate remains open. And now, the journey folds to a close. Not as an ending, but as a return. A return to your own rhythm, your own breath, your own quiet knowing. If you've walked with us until now, if you listened with an open heart, if something ancient stirred within you, then this was never just a story. It was a remembrance. You didn't just hear words, you felt resonance. You touched the thread that connects all travelers across lives, across dimensions, across the unseen. Thank you, truly, for staying until the final whisper, for choosing presence over noise, depth over distraction, truth over entertainment. The journey continues, not in another realm, but here, in how you see it, how you listen, how you live now that something inside you has shifted. The gate remains open, and if you wish to walk further, to explore new mysteries, new realms, new whispers from beyond, we invite you to subscribe to the Middle Book channel. Here you'll find sacred stories, spiritual teachings, and transmissions like this one, crafted not to tell you what to believe, but to help you remember who you are. So, breathe, ground, return gently. And when you're ready, we'll be here, waiting beyond the next threshold, inside the next silence, behind the next dream. Thank you. Stay luminous, and remember, you are the gate.